The nights are getting longer. The air is cold. Spooky season's upon us, friends. Now let's ease into spooky season with 5 family-friendly Halloween favorites. Think of these movies as, foreplay, until we get to the good stuff. You know what I mean. We start off our Halloween movie marathon with It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown has pretty much a monopoly on all holidays. It's a surprise there isn't a Charlie Brown Visits Franklin for Kwanzaa special yet, but the Halloween special is one that always stood out to me. I feel as if it's very charming and very cute. It has this melancholy to it that feels almost sad, but you can't help but smile the entire time. The general premise of the film is that there's this great pumpkin figure that's supposed to arrive on Halloween night, almost like a Santa Claus, and Linus is the only believer and he wants the rest of the Peanuts gang to join him. And they decide, man, fuck you, we want this candy, and they go trick-or-treating instead.
I got a rock.
The rest of the film is loosely tied together by a Halloween party and a subplot of Snoopy being a World War I pilot stuck behind enemy lines. Yeah, it's pretty dumb. And it also has the Peanuts classics of Lucy being a little brat and everybody hating on Charlie Brown for some reason. It's definitely not a scary movie by any means, and the animation can feel a little stiff even for 1966, but It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown is 22 minutes of solid nostalgic Halloween fun. There are no black people in this movie. Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman is a movie I hadn't seen since I was a kid. I remember it being one of those movies that would premiere on Cartoon Network leading up to Halloween, so I was really looking forward to seeing how much it held up as an adult. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The premise of the film is that there's this school play and Alvin's the lead character. After blowing up the school and some incel shit, the principal decides that Theodore should take Alvin's role to boost his self-esteem considering he's being bullied, rather than, I don't know, doing her job in preventing the bullying in the first place. Theodore then gets some clout, bags a biddy, and gets bitten by a werewolf. Alvin and Simon then have to find a way of saving their little brother and stopping the Wolfman. The musical numbers are actually pretty good, and Theodore is very adorable rocking Hawkeye's haircut from Endgame. But there isn't much else to this movie. The titular Wolfman is barely even in it. He's mostly just a creep and doesn't play a big role until Dave does this.
Leading him right to the kids!
The Wolfman and Theodore scrap, the Wolfman is bitten, somehow reversing the curse. My friend Sebastian says it makes sense, but And then they make Homeboy the principal. Like, whatever, 30 more movies to go. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is by far my favorite Scooby-Doo property to date. I know that sounds blasphemous to the cult of Ultra Instinct Shaggy and Scooby-Doo live-action fans out there, but I said what I said. Anyway, the film starts as the Mystery Inc. gang retire after defeating yet another fat guy in a mask, Daphne becomes famous, the Stoners join the TSA, and Velma
Be all into reading and shit.
However, Fred decides to reunite the gang, turning their teenage hobby into a traveling ghost show. The gang arrive in Louisiana, where they're recruited by this low baddie to investigate the supposedly haunted Moonscar Island. They travel to a large remote plantation home that gives strong no Negroes welcome vibes, where they're greeted by a very direct message.
Get out!
Being the nosy white people they are, the gang insists on staying, leading to the resurrection of Morgan Moonscar and his pirates, but this time,
It's real!
Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is 76 minutes of beautifully hand-drawn animation driven by a rather complex mystery that is shockingly dark and mature, with human sacrifices, voodoo dolls, and this badass Super Saiyan cat transformation.
This is more haunted stuff than I really wanted.
I cannot recommend this movie enough. Coraline is a very mixed bag for me. On one needle hand is a very whimsical dark fantasy with incredibly detailed stop-motion animation and a strong lead character in Coraline Jones. On the other hand, it's an exhausting and uncomfortably creepy retelling of Alice in Wonderland with a strong emphasis on stranger danger. The film just drags for an hour and 40 minutes and is tonally miserable through most of it. The story follows Coraline after her family move into an obviously haunted house. Coraline begins exploring, where she discovers a suspiciously boarded up door, probably for good reason. Later that night, however, the door has suddenly opened, giving Coraline entry into the other world. There, she's greeted by the other mother and other father, ushering her to live out the childhood of her dreams. Or is it really a nightmare? Duh, of course it is. Coraline returns to the real world, visits her busty neighbors who give her a dark warning about returning to the other world. And of course she ignores it. The other parents then try to coerce Coraline into staying, giving them her eyes and soul? Oh yeah, soul. In exchange for an eternity in their false paradise. But the creepiest part of the movie?
Certified free. 7 days a week.
How is this rated PG?
Oh my god.
Ghostbusters is one of the few movies in our marathon I hadn't actually seen before. It's apparent pretty early in the runtime that the film's philosophy is comedy over substance, but that isn't a bad thing. From the start, the Ghostbusters are already a fully operational, diverse team of 3 white guys. The film then plays out more like the misadventures of the Ghostbusters, as they defeat villains such as Library Ghost, Slimer, the Stay Puft Monster, and fan favorite Blowjob Ghost. The team's hijinks are funnier than expected, and their chemistry is very authentic. This makes for an entertaining blockbuster, especially for 1984. Sure, they can be a bit problematic shooting black people on sight, but at least they make a diversity hire.
Beautiful, you're hired.
The main drama of the film revolves around Sigourney Weaver's character after she's kidnapped by the ancient ghosts Zool and Gozer. The Ghostbusters, plus newly hired black guy, then have to swoop in to save the day from a Marvel brand giant skybeam and David Bowie with force lightning? However, the real villain of the film has to be Bill Murray doing his best Bill Cosby impersonation. That part didn't age too well.
I am madly in love with you. I'll bet you're gonna be thinking about me. No kiss. I just whacked her up with about 300 cc's of Thorazine. She's gonna take a little nap. She thought I was a creep.
Me too.
But the kids love us.
Monster House is an interesting twist on the haunted house genre, considering the house itself is alive and seemingly hungry as it attempts to eat anyone that approaches it. I've never been a big fan of the art style, but it grows on you and it has charm and an earnest attitude. I think it's funny too and should satisfy most children and young teens. Beetlejuice is a very eccentric movie led confidently by Michael Keaton's outstanding performance. It balances horror and humor rather well and is unlike anything I've really seen amongst family-friendly Halloween movies. If you're feeling nostalgic, Beetlejuice is a safe choice. The Nightmare Before Christmas was probably my most heavily requested movie for this marathon, and understandably so. With beautiful stop-motion animation, a rich world of wonder within Halloween Town, and a captivating and charismatic Jack Skellington at the helm, it's easy to see why this movie is so beloved. However, I personally have never been a big fan of the holiday blend of Halloween and Christmas. I've always considered them polar opposite vibes and felt more comfortable giving this movie a shout-out rather than a flat-out rewatch for our marathon. Sorry guys. But that about does it for Kiddies' first Halloween. You can't just jump into ghosts and gore, but don't worry, there's plenty of that coming up soon. So please subscribe now for weekly uploads. This October, join me in my movie marathon of 32 must-see Halloween classics.